go ahead and call the December 18th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting to order. Confirmation of posting and roll call.
Thank you. This meeting was posted in accordance to Nevada open meeting law, and all members are present with the exception of member Rudd.
Thank you. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This brings us to our initial public comment. Anyone wishing to speak during the initial public comment? Folks may also call in at 702-589-9629. Hearing and seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the initial public comment period. Moving on to agenda item number 1 for possible action, approval of minutes of November 20th, 2024, regular meeting. I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 2 for possible action, matters pertaining to approximately 0.26 acres located at 708 Nevada Highway.
Hi, good evening, Chairman McDonald, members of the Commission. Nikisha Lyons, City Planner with the Community Development Department. So for item number 2, this is for consideration of a variance for a commercial building that is located at 708 Nevada Way to allow for the display of 4 already installed government flags that are located on the roof, whereas Chapter 24 of Title 11 of the City Code does not allow for the installation of new roof signs in the Motel Sign District, and only allows a maximum of 3 poles per building in commercial zones. And then this is just an aerial overview of the site on the screen. And then these are the government flags, roof signs in question. For background, between June and September of this year, the city received multiple complaints regarding the display of non-commercial message signs, as well as government flags at Max's Food and Drink. In response to these code violations, the city sent a notice of violation in order to correct, and the property owner appealed this notice and order. And then upon further communication between the city, the property owner, and their agent, they sought to address the code violations through a variance application. So the appeal has been placed on hold pending the results of this request. In terms of this application, Title 11 defines that a sign is any device visible from any portion of the public right-of-way, which is used for visual communication, including any structure or natural object or part thereof that is used for the purpose of bringing the subject thereof to the attention of the public. A government flag or national flag is a flag that represents and symbolizes a given nation and is considered a sign. The roof displays 4 flags of the United States, as shown on the screen. Regarding this request, as the subject property is located within the Motel Sign District, which is, these are the boundaries of that district on the screen, the installation of new roof signs are not permissible for use in this sign district without the approval of a variance. The purpose of this sign district is characterized by the predominant presence of transient lodging facilities, the majority of which were constructed during the tourist boom, that was from the 1950s to the 1970s, which have unique sign styles and designs. Many of these often mimic those in old Las Vegas. So it's the city's desire to retain the cultural feel and appearance of the motel area, including the restoration and reuse of the original signs, whether they're roof or pylon signs. Additionally, in commercial, industrial, and agricultural zones, a maximum of 3 flagpoles per building are allowed. Therefore, an approved variance is required to allow for these deviations from the 2 city standards. All other zoning requirements have been met. The applicant's justification states that the building has a unique design and the roof of the building provides an elevated position for the display of flags, which do not block views inside and outside of the building, nor do they obstruct ingress and egress of patrons to the building. Their justification states that the display and location of these flags is a classic exercise of the applicant's core speech guaranteed by the free speech rights that are set forth in the United States Constitution's First Amendment, made applicable to the state of Nevada by application of the due process guarantees of the 14th Amendment. Their justification also states that the city code itself creates unusual and extraordinary circumstances necessitating a variance to avoid improperly burdening or curtailing the applicant's rights of free speech. The city code unduly burdens their rights of free speech and is not narrowly tailored to address a legitimate governmental interest and burdens far more speech than is necessary. The applicant's justification also states that these code provisions may possibly be in violation of NRS 278.0233, 1A, 1, and 2, which requires that the city code does not burden the rights of landowners in an arbitrary or capricious way or in a manner that exceeds the city's legal authority. So for more information on that, their application, as well as their justification, and then the associated drawings or photos, those have been included in the agenda package, which starts on page 23. Section 11-32-4 of City Code sets forth the criteria that must be met in order for a variance to be granted, and it is necessary that findings be provided for all 5 criteria for the variance to be approved, and failure to meet any one of these criteria is sufficient reason for denial of a variance. So beginning on page 15 of the agenda packet, I provided the applicant's response as well as staff findings regarding each of the criteria. And based on this information, I offer 2 options to the commission regarding the requested variance, and these options start on page 19 of the agenda packet. The first consideration is for the conditional approval of the variance, as the request does meet all of the criteria with consideration to the unique building design, which limits the locations for the placement of government flags, which do not block or obstruct views, as well as ingress and egress of pedestrians and patrons to the site or into the building. Placement of the government flags on top of the building eliminates the possibility of any type of obstruction. Additionally, the city has allowed variances specific to the installation of new roof signs, and this is mentioned with past examples that starts on page 21 of the agenda packet. If conditionally approved, there are 2 conditions that have been proposed to be associated with this variance. This would be that all other flagpoles and flagpole holder bases would need to be removed from the roof to ensure conformance with the approval of only 4 flagpoles if this were to be approved, as well as the approval is based on the plans as they've been submitted, and they shall not apply to any deviations to the plans if the scope of this request was expanded beyond what is shown in the plans that are in front of you. The second consideration, this is for denial of the variance, as criteria A and B are not met. So for criteria A, there are no exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions that are applicable to the property or its intended use that do not apply generally to other property or classes of use in the same vicinity and zone. And then for criterion B, the variance is not necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right that is possessed by other property in the same vicinity and zone, but which is denied to the property in question. So these provisions are applied in the same manner that we would apply them to other commercially zoned properties along Nevada Way, other commercial uses that are within the area, and as well as those within the C2 zoning district. There are several motels and commercial properties along Nevada Way that do have similar building designs, and there are other locations on the subject property where government flags can be displayed that would not block viewpoints, as well as ingress and egress into the building or on the site. The substantial property right to display government flags is not denied to the subject property. The display of government flags conforming to the city's standards in regards to location and amount are allowed on the subject property. Most notably, most of the justifications that have been provided for the variance application are without merit. So per established case law, specifically Ward v. Rock Against Racism, the government may impose reasonable restrictions on time, place, or manner of protected speech, even of speech in public forum, as long as restrictions are justified without reference to content of regulated speech, are narrowly tailored to serve significant government interests, and leave open ample alternative channels for communication of information. NRS 278.020 provides authority to the city to regulate and restrict the development or the improvement of land and location and soundness of structures for the purpose of promoting health, safety, morals, or the general welfare of the community. Chapter 24 of Title 11 regulates signs by their size, height, physical design, construction, illumination, maintenance, and relationship to the land uses. The code also states that it's the city's policy to regulate signs in a constitutional manner, which is content neutral as to non-commercial signs and viewpoint neutral as to commercial signs. The content of the government flags are not in question. The regulations enforced on the subject property are not arbitrary nor capricious in nature, nor are they unlawful or in excess of lawful authority per state law. The city is not exposing itself to any liability under state law by restricting the property owner's First Amendment right through impermissible application of the city's zoning code. The application of these provisions are not a violation of the First Amendment, nor the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, nor a violation of state law. So denial of this variance will not infringe on the property owner's rights to free speech. Though the city has allowed variances specific to the installation of new roof signs, which examples are provided within the staff report, none of these have been within the motel sign district. Additionally, it's important to remember that each variance is specific to the findings associated with the criteria, and these two criteria are not met. The commission has the option to associate conditions or modifications to the request if they deem necessary. The variance has been noticed in accordance with state law. We've received 2 written public comments that were included in the agenda packet, which just express that they do not support the request. So the Community Development Department respectfully requests the commission tonight to conduct the public hearing, consider the variance, and make a motion to either conditionally approve or deny the request based on staff findings as denoted on page 22 of the agenda packet. Staff, including the city attorney, Brittany Walker, were available for any questions that the commission may have. And I believe the property owner and or his agent, they are here in attendance tonight to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikisha. And once again, a wonderful job, thorough presentation. Before we kick it off to questions, comments of staff, I know that it sounded like the city kind of gave responses on several of those things, citing legal cases to support those. I know we've got our city attorney here. Just want to make sure that that came through past her office. That's where it came from, and we're speaking on behalf of the city.
Yes, yeah.
Perfect.
She did
Beautiful.
review the staff report before it came before you all tonight.
Absolutely. What questions would we have of staff? Will you please kick us off?
Thank you, Nikisha. Why was there such a long period between when the variance request was filed on 9/2 and the revision on 12/2? I noticed in the staff report it did say there was legal review, but there was legal review for 4 months?
No, so there was a little bit of back and forth, as well as time that spanned from when they received the first notice of correction, of the notice of violation in order to correct. And then after that, it took a little bit of time for them to appeal the request, for us to actually get in contact with them. And then after communications, they were wanted to apply for the variance application. So we put that appeal on hold. Their first review, there were a lot of corrections that they needed to make to the application just to clarify specific things that they were actually asking for. If they wanted to include other components into the variance application and things of that nature from other departments as well. And then they did resubmit. Within that time, there was another code enforcement action that was taken on the property, which then changed the scope of what they were asking for within the variance. So that's why later on it was amended to remove those items from their variance application. And those were in regards to other government signs, or sorry, other non-commercial signs, and then government flags that were on the property.
Well, that was my follow-up question. I did see that the agent responded on the resubmittal of some corrective action that was taken, but in that 4 months, there was still code violation, or well, I know it's a code violation presently, but there were other violations besides the variance that we're considering tonight?
That is correct.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Any other questions for staff? Beth, go ahead.
I thought I read in the comments that the fourth pole has since come down. Do we know?
I'm not aware that the
Not
fourth
aware of
pole
that.
has come
Okay.
down, no.
Are we allowed to put a time limit on the variance, say through today? You can get back to me on that one. And my last question, maybe not my last question, in criteria A, staff response, 1 to 3rd line, it refers to as long as restrictions are justified without reference to content, etc. What's the justification that's intended within that response?
Sorry, which line are you talking about, and what page?
It's the 3rd line,
For criteria A?
yes.
Okay.
Government may impose reasonable restrictions on time, place, manner of protected speech, even of speech in public forum, as long as restrictions are justified without reference to content.
Might be best for the city attorney to take this one.
Hi, good evening, planning commissioners. Yeah, this is addressed on page 16 of the staff report. It's well within the city's police powers to enact reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on speech to protect the public health, welfare, and safety, to prevent unreasonable distraction for operators of motor vehicles, confusion with traffic lights, signs, or signals, and to make the city physically and visually attractive to residents, tourists, and businesses, promote private investment in land improvements, preserve and enhance the natural scenic beauty, aesthetic features of the city, streets and highways. This is all well-settled case law that the city has an interest in preserving these aspects and can have regulations in it as long as they are consistently applied and are reasonable time, place, and manner, they're content neutral.
Have we been challenged on this with regards to the First Amendment using this case law in the past that you know of?
I know in the past we had a challenge to our sign code, and our sign code was rewritten, but I don't have that background.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I believe that was done around 2005. It was definitely in the 2000s. The city hired a legal representative and rewrote the entire sign ordinance. And to my recollection, since this current sign ordinance has been in place, I'm not speaking as an attorney, this is just a recollection. I do not believe there's, I don't know of a challenge where the city, with the new sign ordinance in effect.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm just, I do remember when it was rewritten.
Absolutely, and I can't imagine that 4 American flags versus 3 American flags could be substantiated in court to be hindering someone's free speech. Yeah. Any other questions of staff before we ask the applicant to come forward? Any questions of the applicant? We'll ask the applicant to come forward and we'll conduct the public hearing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Paul Larson. I'm an attorney with Black & Wadhams representing the applicant. Before I get started, and I have a very brief presentation, I just wanted to compliment Ms. Lyons on not only the accuracy of her procedural summary, but the thoroughness of it. She's been a pleasure to work with as we've been going along. As she related to you, however, this application started out far more complex than it currently is. In the process of reviewing the application and the citations, we commenced a lot of remedial action. So non-conforming commercial signage that was on the building has been removed and conforms to city code. Non-conforming flags that were located on the ground near the right-of-way have been removed and are conforming. So the application before you tonight simply is for government flags on the roof. I have pictures of what they look like if you'd care to see those. But I drove past it on the way here, and I'm sure you do as well. But for the record, I'd like to submit pictures demonstrating what they look like tonight. But as I said, I would keep this presentation very short. At this point, we're only asking for the 4 flags on the roof. I think Ms. Lyons adequately summarized the justification we have put forth, that the flags are located on the roof to avoid obstructing sight lines regarding roadways and pedestrian walkways. They are out of the pedestrian walkways right-of-way, so they don't provide any physical obstruction to vehicles or pedestrians, and do in fact conform to the expressive intent of the client, or my client, the landowner, with regard to his First Amendment speech. So that is basically the entirety of our presentation, in addition to what is included in the application itself, as well as summarized by the staff report. And at that point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of the applicant this time?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. We will now conduct the public hearing. Yes.
I apologize for, Ms. Lyons had indicated that there were some if-approved conditions, and we are completely in agreement with those and would agree to those voluntarily if this item were approved.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We'll conduct the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to be heard? Folks may also call in at 702-589-9629. Hearing and seeing none, we'll go ahead and conclude this public hearing. Bring it back around to the dais for discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
I just have a couple of comments, if I may.
Absolutely, please do.
Well, I think Chairman McDonald kind of hit the nail on the head when he said, the difference between 3 flags and 4 flags. I don't think if you have 3 flags, which conforms with the city code, it just makes you kind of sort of, and I'm just speaking to the content of the signs or context of the signs just because that's what they are. 3 signs doesn't make you kind of sort of patriotic, and 4 makes you super patriotic. I don't think it adds any value. The content of the sign doesn't matter to me whatsoever. It could be flags of Santa Claus. That's not the point here whatsoever. I think it is. I don't think the criteria has been met. I think the same answer was provided for all the criteria that is required to grant a variance request, and I don't think that's sufficient. I believe that there are numerous business owners, especially along the corridor, that have invested tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to signage and rehabilitating that corridor to make it pleasant and attractive to visitors and residents. And I think this is unfortunate. It doesn't add any value to the business. It's not advertising the business. Again, the content is irrelevant, but free speech is not consequent free speech. The government does have the right to limit signage if it is for the betterment of the community. And quite frankly, because the way this has been done, it sets a bad precedent. It says that, oh, just do what you want. We violated 2 codes, and then come back because it's inconvenient for us to take down a flag, so we'll just ask for a variance. That's not the way it should work. You should come and seek the variance first, and particularly because there's been a lack of regard for our code that's currently in place, not only by the 2 code provisions that are being violated currently, but also prior to that. So those are my thoughts. I'm not in favor of this whatsoever.
Thank you, Lou. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, go ahead, Matt.
I agree with what so far has been said. I'd also like to point out that, as a former Boy Scout, when you display an American flag, at night it's supposed to have a light on it, which the roof of that business does not. And also, whether you support police or firefighters, a flag with an extra blue stripe or red stripe is actually not an American flag anymore. It's been defaced. So, and just to add, I don't think the applicant has shown much interest in going along with the municipal code before. I'm not sure what this is really about. I can't believe that we're holding a hearing over one flag on the roof. I have a suspicion that the next political season will be back where we were before, and there will be all kinds of extra flagpoles and extra flags. And if it really takes 5 months to address code enforcement issues, then I think we really need to look at our code enforcement procedure, because this, in my opinion, was an embarrassment to Boulder City. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to be heard? Call for a vote. Anyone wishing to make a motion?
I move to deny variance 24-674 based on the findings contained within this staff report.
I'd second that.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of denying the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to denying? Motion is denied. Moving on to item number 3 for possible action, matters pertaining to approximately 0.4 acres located at 639 Valencia Drive. We do have a disclosure before Nikisha.
Hello, I'd like to disclose that my aunt, Deborah Finnegan, will be presenting on behalf of the applicant. She has no vested interest, and she's doing this as a favor for a friend. I just wanted to make that disclosure. I've been told that I do not need to recuse myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikisha.
Okay, so before you tonight is a variance request. This is to permit an addition to an existing single-family dwelling that's located at 639 Valencia Drive. This would be for a side setback of 5 feet 4 inches on one side, and on the other side, a side setback of 7 feet 5 inches for a total of 12 feet 9 inches for both sides combined, whereas our city code requires a minimum of 5 on one side and 20 for both sides combined. The property owner is proposing to expand their home for additional living space, which would be located within the side yard on the southern side of the residence. The proposed addition would reduce the side setback that's closest to the neighbor that is at 637 Valencia Drive. And so that side setback would be 5 feet 4 inches. And then the newly proposed combined total would be 12 feet 9 inches because the side to the north, that side setback is not changing. So in order to construct this proposed addition, an approved variance is required prior to the review and approval of a building permit. That's for the addition. The addition, based on the preliminary drawings, there it is. It does meet the other space requirements that are required by Section 11-3-5. So the property owner's justification states that their lot has slightly narrowing widths from the front of the subject property to its rear, so being 90 feet in width along the front, and then 125 feet in width along the rear. There is an existing masonry wall that surrounds the home that you can see better from this photo. And this constrains the subject property, so with the southern side of the home being the only area that remains for further development. Their justification also states that there is a steep drop-off in the rear yard towards Lake Mountain Drive, which limits the feasibility to construct within the rear without being burdensome in some fashion. And you can see that here, as well as here. So expanding the residence to the rear would involve demolishing a portion of that existing masonry wall that's around the residence and grading a portion of the rear, which may be cumbersome. The variance provides the ability to reasonably expand the existing residence to fit their future needs, to allow for additional living space for the applicant's daughter to work remotely, as well as to help in any current and or future caregiving needs as the property owner is a senior. The applicant has provided a written letter from the current owner of the adjacent property located at 637 Valencia Drive that expresses support of this variance, so that property to the south. Additionally, the applicant has also received approval by their HOA in regards to the setback deviations. The application, justification, as well as any applicable drawings, those have been included in the agenda packet starting on page 41. And city code sets forth the criteria that must be met in order for a variance to be granted, and it is necessary for there to be findings for all five criteria for the variance to be approved, and failure to meet any one of the criterion is sufficient reason for denial of a variance. So beginning on page 34 of the agenda packet, staff has provided the applicant's response as well as staff findings regarding each of the criteria. And based on this information, staff offers two options for consideration by the commission in regards to the requested variance. This starts on page 37 of the agenda packet. So the first consideration is for conditional approval of the variance, as the request does meet all of the criteria with consideration to the narrow lot width that is towards the front and then becoming wider towards the rear, as well as the significant downward slope that is towards Lake Mountain Drive in the rear of the property. This is approximately a 16-foot elevation decline, and that's from pad grade of the house to the top of the retaining wall that runs parallel along Lake Mountain Drive, as well as the existing masonry wall that's around the home constrains the site. Additionally, the city does have homes that have combined side setbacks that are less than 20 feet, depending on when the lot was platted or when the home was constructed. So lots that were recorded prior to May 3rd of 1978, they can have a minimum of 15 feet combined side setbacks for interior lots. And then the R15 zoning district allows for combined side setbacks of 15 feet as well. The Planning Commission has also approved combined side yard setbacks of less than 20 feet in the past, and that's further discussed on page 38 of the agenda packet. And this is for new dwelling units as well as existing homes that did add or expand to the home. If conditionally approved, there are two conditions that are applicable to the variance. One of which would be that this addition cannot be converted or used as a dwelling unit, and that approval of the variance is based on the submitted plans that are before you and shall not apply to deviations if the scope of the variance was expanded beyond what is shown. The second consideration is for denial of the variance as criteria A and B are not met. So for criterion A, there are no exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the property or its intended use that do not apply generally to other property or classes of use in the same vicinity and zone which justify the request. So there are other lots within this area that have similar lot width conditions, and they're able to meet the space requirements for the R18 zoning district. The downward slope to the rear may limit the buildable area as far as footprint of the home. However, a portion of the area could be graded to allow for the expansion. Other properties within the subdivision and in the city do have similar downward slopes in the rear of their lots. For criterion B, the variance is not necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right that is possessed by other property in the same vicinity or zone, but which is denied to the property in question, as the ability to have an addition on this existing single-family dwelling unit is not denied. The applicant can redesign the addition to meet the provisions of Chapter 3, Title 11. Again, a portion of the rear lot could be graded to allow for expansion to the rear. Or the applicant could develop their addition vertically by adding another story and building up to 25 feet in height. Additionally, they could propose a smaller addition that meets the required minimum side yard setbacks. So the commission, as always, has the option to associate conditions or modifications to the request if they deem necessary. The variance has been noticed in accordance with state law, and we've received one written public comment that was sent out to the commission, as well as has been placed on the dais. This comment expresses that they do not support this request. So tonight, the Community Development Department respectfully requests that the commission conducts a public hearing and considers the variance as well as then to make a motion to either conditionally approve or deny the request based on staff's findings as denoted on page 40 of the agenda packet, available for any questions that the commission may have. The property owner's representative, Deborah Finnegan, as well as the architect on the project, Paul Walks, they are both in attendance tonight, and they can answer any other questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Bring it around. Any questions for staff?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Nikisha, one question I had is in looking at the plan as the addition would go in on the property on that south side, it wasn't clear to me if that non-compliant area extended the full, how shall I say, length of the addition. Basically, what followed the property line, and maybe said differently, isn't it really only a portion of the structure that's proposed that would be in non-compliance?
Yes, it would just be a portion that would need that smaller
About
side
how
yard
much,
setback.
that's what I couldn't tell from the plan, about how much of the area would be a problem?
I'm not sure what the specific square footage of the addition is.
Well,
to answer that
if we look
question.
at the addition where it's going, and let's just say, and I don't remember the distances, but let's say it's 50 feet or 40 feet, is it really only about 10 feet at that back corner that isn't, that would not be in compliance?
So the way that they have it designed and where it's placed in that location, so currently that setback is 16 feet 6 inches. So then it would be reduced to the 5 feet 4 inches. So combined currently, they meet the combined setback requirements of 23 feet 11 inches, but then it's going to be reduced down to the 12 feet 9 inches. So it's about
the whole length of the structure is that's what we're talking about? The whole length would be reduced to the 5 something?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Okay.
Is it not the whole length? Okay. Well, maybe the applicant, their representative would better be able to clarify that question.
Yeah.
Please come forward. State your name and then we'll start firing questions.
Property line here.
I'm Deborah Finnegan.
See, I thought it was just a corner.
My name is Paul Walks, and for the record, I'm not an architect. I am a builder, though. The encroachment is about half of the additions.
That's kind of what I was wondering. When I had looked at it,
Yeah.
it looked to me like it was about.
So, and that's primarily
Right.
the front half.
Yeah, so it's not the whole structure.
No,
That's
not at all.
what I was getting at.
Not at all.
Since we have the applicant here, any other questions?
Please.
Please, go ahead, Beth.
When, I think we said there was, a neighbor that was in favor or approved it, that is the one directly closest to this side that would be impacted if we,
That
okay.
is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Oh, you guys got off easy.
Occasionally.
Okay, we'll see.
Thank you.
We'll conduct the necessary public hearing at this time. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter? Folks may also call in at 702-589-9629. Hearing and seeing none, we'll conclude this public hearing. All right, bring it around to the dais for discussion and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, if there isn't any comments on it, since it looks to be a very reasonable variance, I think there are some things not even addressed. If you really want to look at the other side of the property, for example, it's all common property from what I could tell. So there's really, if you want to, and we've done this before, there really is a large, the 20-foot setback becomes, the 20-foot total setback is easily met, and we're only talking a small portion of the south area. So, in my opinion, we don't have any issues with meeting the criteria, and I would move to approve the application V24-678 with staff conditions.
I've got a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 4 for possible actions. Matters pertain to a proposed master plan amendment for zoning map amendment, approximately 4.04 acres located west of US 95, south of Spring Canyon Road, east of Droneport Avenue, and north of Black Hills Drive. Nikisha, please take it away.
So this is a request for a master plan amendment and zoning map amendment for approximately 4.04 acres, as described by Chairman McDonald. So I won't describe it again. We did recently annex this property into the city. That was effective on November 6th of this year. And so as the property was just annexed into the city, there's currently no zoning or master plan future land use designation that's applicable to it. So the property owners are seeking to assign a zoning designation of commercial manufacturing and a master plan future land use designation of manufacturing, and this is to allow for commercial and industrial uses to occur on the property. The property owners plan to subdivide the property into 2 lots, and they've already submitted a parcel map application. And once it's subdivided, they will construct 2 buildings, one on each lot, and this is to serve as the warehouse and office spaces for their companies. This is Core Contracting Group and AMC Concrete Company. The applicant and city staff find that it is appropriate to assign these specific proposed master plan, future land use designation, and zoning designation, and this is to ensure conformance with the goals and objectives of the 2003 Boulder City Master Plan, as well as Title 11 of the Boulder City Zoning Ordinance. Per state law, a neighborhood meeting is required prior to the consideration of a master plan amendment. And the property owners did host this meeting on November 19th of this year. This was in the city library. There were no attendees, so that is the summary of that meeting. The item has been noticed in conformance with state law. We haven't received any written public comments. So the request before the commission tonight is to conduct the public hearing for these amendments and consider and make a motion on resolution 1265. This is in regards to the master plan. And then consider and make a motion on resolution 1266 in regards to the zoning. The motion language is on page 60 of the agenda packet. I am available for any questions that the commission may have. I'm not sure if the property owner is actually here. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, Nikisha, one thing in going through the case as you presented it, Public Works, I think, reviewed it and said there was no issue with, I think, sewage or anything like that. But I didn't say anything about water. I don't know whether, the question is whether the city considers any demands on water. If they do, did the Public Works look at that and say that was okay?
Yes, they did. A lot of this was associated with the terms of the annexation. So there is a water main that goes out there, and then there was previously a capacity study that was done for the El Dorado Valley, specifically in that area, and so we have enough capacity to serve those two buildings.
That's great. That perfectly answers it. One thing is, since it's going to go to a manufacturing facility, and of course that could change in terms of the content or the businesses over years, how would the city have, if there was a problem in the future with water to that facility, would the city have a way to review that or constrain it or something?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So in the annexation agreement, it identified a maximum capacity for water and severely limited any other utilities that the city could provide. So that will constrain and control any change in proposed uses because they've only got so much capacity that can be utilized for that. And that's based on the design of the current proposal, which is principally office warehouse, storage, and limited office and bathroom usage.
So it's a utility deed restriction, just restricts the user to the capacity, and no matter how it changes hands, that capacity is restricted.
Through the annexation agreement.
Absolutely. Any other questions of staff?
Quick one. I don't recall, I read this last night, but I don't recall, did the fire department weigh in on this at all?
Yes, they did. They didn't have any comments at this time.
We asked the applicant, not here. That's all right. We will go ahead and conduct our public hearing on this. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter? Folks may also call in at 702-589-9629. Hearing and seeing none concludes this public hearing. Bring it around to the dais. We'll do two separate motions unless there's further discussion. Thank you, Lou.
I move to approve resolution number 1265 based on the findings that the amendment to the master plan conserves and promotes public health, safety, and general welfare.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next motion, I move to recommend approval of Resolution 1266, which is in conformance with the findings and denoted in 11-33-9 of the Boulder City zoning ordinance.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 5 for possible action, AFDA-24-197, Beezer Homes. Nikisha.
So item number 5 before you tonight is for zoning conformance review of an allotment application for 15 residential allotments. That's for the Diamond Ridge subdivision number 114. This is located north of Northridge Drive and east of Arizona Street and Avenue M. So Beazer Homes Holding LLC, they've recently acquired the subdivision, and they are requesting 15 development allotments. This is for the future construction of single-family homes on each of these lots, and this is in accordance with the city's controlled growth management plan for construction year 2024 to 2025. So per code, a maximum of 120 residential allotments can be awarded during any one construction year, which is July 1st to June 30th. And for this fiscal year, we haven't had any allotment requests that have come through, nor have they been issued, and there are no other applications that are pending at this time. Beazer Homes, they've proposed 2 base floor plans. That's Plan S501 and Plan V570. And upon staff's review of zoning compliance, the proposed Plan S501 did not comply with the required front setback provision of a minimum front setback of 20 feet. And this is for the R110 zoning district. So the applicant did submit a variance application in order to reduce the front setback requirement to a minimum of 18 feet. This is specifically applicable to 12 lots on the property and specifically applicable to that plan. And the commission did approve that at our last meeting in November. So if found in conformance with zoning tonight, the application will be reviewed by the allotment committee on January 6th. The allotment committee is responsible for evaluating, rating, and awarding points to the project based on architectural and site design quality. That involves a number of factors that are codified within the growth management plan. Certain factors were already identified and reviewed by the Planning Commission during the approval of the tentative map for the Diamond Ridge subdivision. So if the project receives a score of 70% or more, the allotment committee will recommend approval of this application to the City Council, who would consider final approval of the allotments on January 28th. The application, site plan, landscape plan, floor plans, as well as elevations and location map are starting on page 69 of the agenda packet. So the request before the commission tonight is to determine if the application complies with zoning requirements and to make a motion to forward this request to the allotment committee for their evaluation and review. Motion language is on page 68 of the agenda packet. I am available for any questions that the commission may have, as well as Alicia Trujillo, hopefully I did not mess that up, is a representative from Beazer Homes, and she's available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Nikisha. And just want to reiterate, right now this evening, we're just talking about zoning. We've already done variances, but we're not digging into the weeds, no pun intended, into their stuff there. So
That is correct.
We'll bring it around to the dais for questions of staff. Any questions of the applicant? Well, I'd like to say I'm excited for the development that's going on down there. It's been a pleasure so far working with you guys. Much needed little pocket to fill in there. And like to say that, you know, many times people like to say development sometimes goes with variances. You've complied with just about absolutely everything to be in line with Boulder City, so looking forward to it. Thank you. I will entertain a motion at this time.
I move to find the application AFDA 24-197 is in compliance with zoning requirements and to forward this request to the allotment committee for evaluation and rating.
I second.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, before we move on to number 6, monthly progress report, and then we'll do it.
Okay, nothing to report.
Perfect. All right, before we get out of here, we've got to honor one of our own. Ernie, this is his final meeting on his tenure with the Planning Commission, and I get the honor of giving him a certificate of appreciation from the city and Mayor Hardy. This is not only a thankless job, but the second that you sign up, you put a target on your back to take arrows from all directions from anyone. And I don't know about you guys, but the pay does not warrant that out there. And so, Ernie, for the last 8 years, you've given to this community, serving up here, sharing your expertise, helping to guide the Planning Commission, and we're forever grateful for you. So this is a certificate of appreciation presented to Ernie Biacci in recognition of appreciation of 8 years of service to the city and residents of Boulder City, dated December 18th, 2024, Mayor Joe Hardy. This will take us into our final public comment. Anyone wishing to be heard? Folks may also call in at 702-589-9629. Hearing and seeing none, this concludes our final public comment. Meeting adjourned.